Hello, my precious friends. Welcome to Grandma's Old Age Stories, where I share the real, raw, unfiltered truth about what it means to grow old in today's world. I'm Dorothy Henderson, 70 years old, sitting here in my little apartment with a cup of chamomile tea, ready to tell you something I've kept bottled up inside for nearly 2 years now. This is a story about betrayal so deep it nearly destroyed me. About discovering that the person you welcomed into your family, the woman you called daughter, saw you as nothing more than an inconvenience, a bank account, a problem to eliminate. Where are you watching from today, my dears? Are you in Texas? California? Maybe watching from the UK or Australia? Please drop your location in the comments below, because knowing I'm not alone, knowing that others have survived family betrayal too, it gives me strength. And maybe, just maybe, my story will give you strength as well, or at least warn you about the dangers of trusting too blindly, too completely. This story begins in March of 2022, though really it starts years before that, back when I made the biggest mistake of my life. I gave my daughter-in-law, Vanessa, power of attorney over my affairs. Why? Because my son Thomas, my only child, asked me to. "Mom," he'd said with those puppy dog eyes that had worked on me since he was 5 years old. "Vanessa's a financial planner, she knows how to handle these things. Just sign the papers so if anything happens, we can take care of you properly." Such pretty words, such convincing lies. I trusted them because Thomas was my baby boy. I'd raised him alone after my husband, Richard, died in a construction accident when Thomas was just 12 years old. I'd worked double shifts at the textile factory for 18 years, saved every penny, bought a small house in Cleveland, Tennessee, and put Thomas through college. When he married Vanessa 5 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms, open heart, even helped them with the down payment on their first house. I thought I was gaining a daughter, a friend, a companion for my golden years. Lord, was I wrong? So grab your coffee, settle into your favorite chair, and let me tell you about the day I woke up from a medically induced coma to discover my entire life had been sold, stolen, erased, and how this 70-year-old woman fought back with everything she had left. Because, my dear friends, it's never ever too late to stand up for yourself, to demand justice, to show the world that old age doesn't mean weakness. It started with what seemed like a simple case of the flu. I'd been feeling run down for a few days in early March, nothing serious, just tired and achy. But then the fever came, raging and relentless, burning through me like wildfire. My neighbor, Mr. Patterson, found me collapsed on my kitchen floor on a Monday morning. I don't remember much after that, just fragments, pieces of memory like shattered glass. The ambulance, the bright lights of the emergency room, Thomas's face hovering above me looking worried. "Mom, can you hear me? Mom, squeeze my hand if you can hear me." And Vanessa standing behind him, her face unreadable, cold, almost like she was doing mental calculations while staring at me. The doctors said I had pneumonia that had turned into severe sepsis, that my organs were starting to fail, that they needed to put me in a medically induced coma to give my body a chance to fight. How long? I remember Thomas asking, his voice breaking. The doctor, a kind-faced woman named Dr. Martinez, shook her head slowly. "Could be days, could be weeks. We'll monitor her closely, but Mr. Henderson, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that your mother might not wake up from this." I heard Vanessa's sharp intake of breath, but looking back now, I wonder if it was shock or something else entirely, something darker. They put me under on March 7th, a Tuesday afternoon. I remember Thomas holding my hand, tears streaming down his face. I love you, Mom. You're going to be okay, you hear me? You're the strongest person I know. And then nothing. Darkness, silence, a void where time didn't exist. The doctors told me later that I was under for 38 days, fighting an infection that should have killed me. But I'm stubborn, always have been, and death was going to have to work a lot harder to claim Dorothy Henderson. During those 38 days, while I floated in that dark space between life and death, Vanessa was busy. Oh, she was very, very busy. She had the power of attorney I'd stupidly, naively signed over to her 2 years earlier. My son had convinced me it was just a precaution, that it would make things easier if I ever got sick. Mom, you're getting older, Thomas had said gently. We just want to make sure we can help you if something happens. So I'd signed, trusted, believed. I woke up on April 14th, a Friday afternoon. The ventilator tube was gone, replaced by oxygen tubes in my nose. Everything hurt. Everything felt wrong. Like I was inhabiting someone else's body. Mrs. Henderson? A nurse's face appeared above me, smiling, kind. Welcome back. You gave us quite a scare. Can you tell me your name? Dorothy. I croaked, my voice rough and strange. Dorothy May Henderson. Excellent. And do you know where you are? Hospital, I managed, though speaking felt like pushing boulders up a mountain. That's right. You're at Cleveland Medical Center. You've been very sick, but you're getting better now. Your family will be so happy to hear you're awake. Family, yes. Where was Thomas? Where was Vanessa? The nurse must have seen the question in my eyes. We've called your son. He should be here soon. But it wasn't soon, not at all. I waited for 3 hours, 3 long hours where I drifted in and out of consciousness, before Thomas finally arrived. He looked terrible, my poor boy. Dark circles under his eyes, his clothes rumpled, his hair uncombed. Mom! He rushed to my bedside and grabbed my hand. Oh, Mom, thank God. The doctors said, they said you might not. I thought I'd lost you. Tears ran down his face and I squeezed his hand weakly. Still here, I whispered. Takes more than pneumonia to kill a Henderson. He laughed through his tears, but there was something off, something wrong in his eyes, a shadow, a secret. Where's Vanessa? I asked, and I watched his face change, watched something flicker across it. Guilt, maybe. She's at home, Mom. She wanted to come, but she's been handling everything, all the paperwork and bills and stuff. She's exhausted. Handling everything? What did that mean? But I was too weak to ask, too tired to push. The house? I mumbled. Is the house okay? Who's been taking care of things? Thomas looked away, wouldn't meet my eyes. Don't worry about that now, Mom. Just focus on getting better. Okay? But I did worry. Over the next week, as I slowly regained my strength, learned to walk again with a walker, relearned how to feed myself with hands that shook, I worried constantly. Thomas visited every day, but Vanessa never came, not once. She's dealing with some family emergency, Thomas would say, or she's not feeling well, or she's swamped with work. Always an excuse, always a reason, never the truth. Finally, on my 10th day awake, Dr. Martinez sat down beside my bed with a serious expression. Mrs. Henderson, you're doing remarkably well. We'd like to discharge you in a few days. Do you have somewhere to go? Someone to help you during recovery? I have my house, I said immediately. My son and daughter-in-law will help me. But Dr. Martinez frowned. I asked your son about that yesterday, and he said the living situation had changed. Perhaps you should discuss this with him. Living situation had changed? What did that mean? Panic started rising in my chest, making the monitors beep frantically. That evening when Thomas arrived, I was ready. Thomas Michael Henderson, I said in my best mother voice, the one that had made him confess to breaking windows and skipping school. You tell me right now what's going on. What did the doctor mean about my living situation changing? He sank into the chair beside my bed, put his face in his hands. Mom, Vanessa had to make some decisions while you were sick. What kind of decisions? My heart was pounding now, fear crawling up my spine like ice. The hospital bills were enormous, Mom. Over $90,000. Your insurance covered most of it, but there was still so much left, and Vanessa said we had to sell some things. What things, Thomas? My voice was deadly calm now. What did she sell? He wouldn't look at me, kept his eyes fixed on the floor. Some furniture, some of your collectibles, things you didn't really need anymore. Things I didn't need? I repeated slowly. Like what exactly? Your china set, the antique dresser from Grandma's house, some jewelry, the riding lawnmower. Each item felt like a stab to my heart. That china had been my mother's, passed down through 3 generations. The dresser was over 100 years old. The jewelry included my wedding ring, the one Richard had saved 6 months to buy. How dare she? I was shaking now, fury giving me strength I shouldn't have had. How dare she sell my things without asking me? I'm not dead, Thomas. I'm right here. Mom, please calm down. The monitors. But I didn't care about the monitors. Where's the money? If she sold all that, where's the money from it? Thomas finally looked up, and the guilt in his eyes told me everything. It went to pay the bills, Mom. The hospital, the specialists, all of it. But I knew my son, had known him for 45 years, and I knew when he was lying. That night I barely slept. My mind raced, calculating, remembering, adding up all the strange things I'd noticed. Vanessa never visiting, Thomas's evasiveness, the living situation comment. The next morning I called Mr. Patterson, my neighbor, from the hospital phone. Dorothy. His voice was warm with relief. I'm so glad you're okay. We've all been so worried. Thank you, dear. Listen, I need to ask you something. Can you see my house from your window? Of course, why? Is everything normal there? Does it look okay? There was a long, uncomfortable pause. Dorothy, haven't they told you? Told me what? I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Your house, Dorothy. There's a big sold sign on the lawn. Has been for about 3 weeks now. I thought you knew. I thought maybe you decided to move in with Thomas and Vanessa. The phone slipped from my hand. Sold? Sold? My house, the house I'd bought with Richard's life insurance money. The house I'd worked 18 years to pay off. The house where I'd raised my son, where every corner held a memory. Sold? Mrs. Henderson? A nurse rushed over as the monitors started screaming. Mrs. Henderson, what's wrong? But I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. They had to sedate me. When I woke up hours later, Thomas was there looking panicked. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have told you myself, but Vanessa said, she said it was better to wait until you were stronger. Get out, I whispered. Mom, please listen. Get out! I screamed with all the strength I had left. Get out and don't come back until you're ready to tell me the truth. All of it. Everything. He left, and I lay there in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling my whole world crumble around me. My house sold. My belongings gone. My daughter-in-law a thief. And my son, my precious boy, either a conspirator or a coward, maybe both. But one thing I knew for certain, I wasn't going to just accept this. Not now, not ever. This old woman still had fight left in her. And Vanessa was about to find out exactly what happens when you mess with Dorothy Henderson. The next morning, I refused all visitors and asked the nurse for a phone book. A phone book, Mrs. Henderson? Most people just use their cell phones these days. Well, this old lady still believes in phone books, I said firmly. Now, can you get me one, please? She brought it, along with my cell phone that Thomas had dropped off, and I got to work. First call was to my bank, First National Bank on Miller Street, where I'd had my accounts for 37 years. Good morning. This is Dorothy Henderson. I'd like to check the balance on my accounts, please. The representative, a young woman named Ashley, was polite but cautious. Of course, Mrs. Henderson. Can you verify your social security number and mother's maiden name? I provided the information, then waited. All right, I have your accounts here. Your checking account currently has a balance of $423.16. Your savings account was closed on March 15th. My blood ran cold. Closed? What do you mean closed? How much was in it when it was closed? Let me check, just one moment. It shows here that the account had $48,612. The full amount was withdrawn by Vanessa Henderson using power of attorney. $48,000. Money I'd saved over decades, pennies and dollars scraped together from every paycheck. Gone just like that. And my checking account? Have there been any unusual withdrawals? Well, there have been several large withdrawals over the past month. Let me send you a statement to review. I gave her my email address, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Next, I called the county recorder's office. Hello. I'm trying to find information about a property sale. The address is 847 Maple Street, Cleveland, Tennessee. The clerk was helpful. That property was sold on March 23rd. The deed transfer is public record. Would you like me to email you a copy? Yes, please. And can you tell me how much it sold for? Let me see, it shows here that it sold for $215,000. $215,000. My house, the house I'd own free and clear, no mortgage, sold for over $200,000. And who was the seller listed? I already knew, but I needed to hear it. The seller is listed as Dorothy Mae Henderson, represented by attorney-in-fact Vanessa Lynn Henderson. Attorney-in-fact, such official words for what was really theft. I spent the entire day making calls, gathering information, building my case. I called my insurance company and learned that yes, the hospital bills had been high, but my insurance had covered everything except $12,000. Not $90,000 like Vanessa had claimed, just $12,000. I called the furniture appraiser I'd used years ago, and he estimated that the items Vanessa sold were worth at least $35,000. And I called 3 real estate agents who all agreed that in the current market, my house should have sold for at least $250,000, possibly more. By evening, I had a stack of printed emails and notes, and the picture was becoming horrifyingly clear. Vanessa had systematically stolen nearly $300,000 from me, maybe more. The house sale alone was suspicious, selling for below market value quickly, probably to someone she knew. My savings account emptied. My belongings sold for far less than they were worth. And the hospital bills? Those were just an excuse, a cover story for her theft. That evening, a different visitor arrived. Not Thomas, but my younger sister, Margaret, who lived 2 hours away in Nashville. Dorothy. She rushed to my bedside, eyes red from crying. I just heard you were awake. Thomas didn't call me, can you believe it? I found out from your neighbor, Mr. Patterson. Maggie, I said, using her childhood nickname. I need your help. Something terrible has happened. I told her everything, showed her all my notes and documents. Margaret's face turned from shock to fury. That woman. She paced the small hospital room like a caged tiger. That conniving, evil woman. And Thomas? What does he have to say about all this? He claims he didn't know that Vanessa was handling everything. Do you believe him? I thought about my son, about the guilt in his eyes, the evasiveness. I don't know, Maggie. Either he's in on it, or he's the most naive man alive. Either way, he chose her over me. What are you going to do? Margaret asked, sitting back down. Because you can't just let this go, Dorothy. This is theft, fraud, elder abuse. I know, I said quietly. That's why tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. The best one I can find. And I'm going to get every single penny back. Even if it takes everything I have left. Margaret squeezed my hand. You can stay with me when you get out of here. My guest room is yours for as long as you need it. Tears filled my eyes at her kindness, so different from what I'd experienced from my own son and daughter-in-law. Thank you, Maggie. You're the only family I have left now. Dr. Martinez discharged me 5 days later, and Margaret drove me straight to her house in Nashville. It was a cozy 2-bedroom place, nothing fancy, but it felt like a palace compared to the hospital. She'd set up the guest room with fresh flowers, clean sheets, and a framed photo of Richard and me from our wedding day. Found it in a box in my attic, she explained. Thought you might want it. I held that photo, looking at our young, hopeful faces, and cried. Richard and I had worked so hard, saved so much, built a life together. And for what? So our son could marry a woman who would steal it all? He'd be so disappointed. I whispered. Not in you, Margaret said firmly. Never in you. You did everything right, Dorothy. You trusted the wrong people, that's all. Now we're going to make it right. The next morning, Margaret drove me to the law offices of Patricia Morrison, a lawyer known for handling elder abuse cases. Ms. Morrison was about 50, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. She listened to my story without interruption, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back and steepled her fingers. Mrs. Henderson, what was done to you is called financial exploitation of an elderly person, and in Tennessee, it's a very serious crime. Not only can we sue civilly to recover your assets, but criminal charges can be filed as well. Criminal charges? My stomach churned. Against my daughter-in-law? And possibly your son if he was complicit. But let's look at the evidence first. We spent 3 hours going through everything: the bank statements, the house sale documents, the insurance papers. Ms. Morrison's expression grew darker with each page. This is even worse than I thought. Look here. The house was sold to a company called VTH Investments. Do you know what that is? I shook my head. Neither did I, so I looked it up while you were talking. VTH Investments is a company registered to Vanessa Teresa Henderson. She sold your house to herself at below market value. My mouth dropped open. She can do that? Legally? No. That's self-dealing and a clear breach of fiduciary duty. The power of attorney gave her the authority to act in your best interest, not hers. This is textbook fraud. Ms. Morrison stood up and paced. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're filing an emergency motion to freeze all the assets we can trace. The house, any bank accounts, everything. Second, we're filing a lawsuit to void the house sale and recover all stolen funds. And third, I'm reporting this to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation. How long will this take? I asked, feeling overwhelmed. Honestly? Could be 6 months to a year, maybe longer if they fight it. And they will fight it, trust me. People who steal this much money don't give it back easily. I don't care how long it takes, I said firmly. I want justice. And I want my life back. The next week was a blur of activity. Ms. Morrison filed all the paperwork, and suddenly things started happening fast. The court issued a temporary restraining order freezing the house sale. Vanessa received a subpoena to appear in court. The police opened a criminal investigation. And Thomas? Thomas finally called. Mom, what are you doing? His voice was panicked, angry. Vanessa got served with papers today. You're suing us? Your own family. I'm suing a thief, I said coldly. Whether that's family or not doesn't change what she did. She was trying to help you. The bills were huge. Thomas, stop lying. I know the bills were only $12,000. I know she stole nearly $300,000 from me. I know she sold my house to her own company. I know everything. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, I didn't know about the company, Mom. I swear I didn't know. But you knew about the rest? You knew she was selling my house without telling me while I was in a coma. She said it was necessary. She said you'd understand once you got better. His voice broke. I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have stopped her, should have questioned things, but I trusted her. And that's your mistake, Thomas. You trusted her over me. You let her steal from your own mother. I was crying now, couldn't help it. Do you know what hurts most? Not the money, not the house. It's that you let it happen. You're my son, my only child. And you stood by while she destroyed me. Mom, please. Can we talk about this in person? Can I come see you? No, I said flatly. Not until this is resolved. Not until I get my life back. The preliminary hearing was set for 2 weeks later. Margaret drove me to the courthouse, helping me navigate the steps with my walker. I was still weak from the hospital stay. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, paneled in dark wood. Ms. Morrison sat beside me at one table. Across the aisle, Vanessa sat with her own lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. She wouldn't look at me, kept her eyes fixed straight ahead. Thomas sat in the gallery behind Vanessa, looking miserable. The judge, a gray-haired woman named Judge Patricia Sullivan, reviewed the files. This is a petition to void a property sale and recover assets allegedly misappropriated during the petitioner's medical incapacity. Miss Morrison, you may proceed." Miss Morrison stood, and for the next 30 minutes, she laid out the case with brutal precision. The suspicious timing, the below-market sale, the self-dealing, the stolen savings. She presented bank records, email correspondence between Vanessa and the buyers that she'd subpoenaed, everything. "Your Honor," Mrs. Henderson gave Ms. Vanessa Henderson power of attorney in good faith, trusting that her daughter-in-law would act in her best interests. Instead, Ms. Vanessa Henderson systematically looted Mrs. Henderson's assets, stealing nearly $300,000 while her mother-in-law fought for her life in intensive care. Vanessa's lawyer tried to argue. "Your Honor, Ms. Vanessa Henderson acted in what she believed were Mrs. Dorothy Henderson's best interests. The medical bills were substantial, and difficult decisions had to be made quickly. But Judge Sullivan wasn't buying it. Counselor, the evidence shows that the insurance covered most medical expenses. It also shows that Ms. Vanessa Henderson sold the house to her own company at below market value. That doesn't sound like acting in someone else's best interest. That sounds like theft." She banged her gavel. "I'm issuing a preliminary injunction. The house sale is voided pending full trial. All assets are to be frozen. Ms. Vanessa Henderson is ordered to provide a full accounting of every dollar she spent or transferred. And I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. This court is adjourned." As we left the courtroom, I saw Vanessa finally look at me. The hatred in her eyes was palpable, burning. But I didn't care. For the first time since waking up in that hospital, I felt a spark of hope. The full trial was set for 3 months later, and those 3 months were hell. Vanessa's lawyer fought everything, filed motion after motion, delayed and obstructed. But Ms. Morrison was relentless. She subpoenaed records, took depositions, built an airtight case. And slowly, piece by piece, the full scope of Vanessa's crimes came to light. It turned out that Vanessa had been planning this for years. She'd married Thomas specifically because she knew I was a widow with property and savings. Phone records showed she'd been in contact with a real estate investor friend even before I got sick, discussing opportunities in elderly property acquisitions. Email records showed she'd Googled, "How long can someone be in a coma?" and power of attorney to sell house days before I was even admitted to the hospital. The most damning evidence came from her own computer. Ms. Morrison's investigator found deleted files showing Vanessa had researched my medical history, knew I had a weak immune system, and had actually hoped I would die in the hospital. One email to her sister read, "If the old bat kicks it, Thomas inherits everything and will finally be set." Reading those words felt like being stabbed in the heart. Thomas, to his credit, finally came to see me at Margaret's house. He looked 10 years older, broken. "Mom, I didn't know," he said, crying. "I swear I didn't know she was that evil. I thought she really was just trying to help. But I've seen the evidence now, and I can't believe I married someone like that." "You chose her, Thomas," I said, my voice heavy with sadness. "Even when things seemed off, you chose to believe her over me." "I know. I was a fool, a complete fool. I'm filing for divorce, Mom. I can't be married to someone who would do this to you, to anyone." "Too little, too late," I said quietly. "But I appreciate you finally seeing the truth. Can you ever forgive me?" he asked. I looked at my son, my only child, and felt my heart break all over again. "I don't know, Thomas. Right now, I'm just trying to survive. Ask me again when this is all over. The trial finally began on a hot July morning. The courtroom was packed. Word had gotten out about the case, and apparently it was quite the local scandal. Ms. Morrison called witness after witness, building her case brick by brick. Bank officers testified about the suspicious transactions. Real estate agents testified that the house sale was below market value. My doctor testified about my condition, how I was completely incapacitated, unable to make decisions. Then Vanessa took the stand, and that's when everything exploded. Under cross-examination, Ms. Morrison was merciless. "Miss Henderson, did you love your mother-in-law?" "Of course I did." Vanessa insisted. "Then why did you sell her house without waiting for her to wake up?" "She was stable by week 3. The bills were mounting. I had to act quickly." "But you didn't use the money for bills, did you? Where is the money from the house sale?" Vanessa's face went red. "It's in an investment account, earning interest for Dorothy's benefit." "Really? Because the records show it's in your personal account. And you've already spent $40,000 of it on a new car, designer clothes, and a vacation to the Bahamas." The courtroom erupted in gasps. "That's not, I was going to pay it back." Vanessa stammered. "When?" "After Dorothy died and couldn't object." Vanessa's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The jury had seen her for what she really was, a gold-digging thief. The trial lasted 2 weeks, and every day brought new revelations. How Vanessa had convinced Thomas that I was losing my memory, that I needed help with my finances. How she'd isolated me from my friends, always volunteering to drive me places then forgetting to pick me up. How she'd been poisoning my relationship with Thomas for years. Little comments about how I was too demanding, too needy, too much of a burden. Finally, the jury deliberated. For hours later they returned. "We find in favor of the plaintiff, Dorothy Henderson. We award full restitution of all stolen assets, plus punitive damages in the amount of $100,000. Furthermore, we recommend criminal prosecution to the fullest extent of the law." I sat there in that courtroom, Margaret holding one hand, Ms. Morrison holding the other, and cried. Not tears of joy exactly, but tears of relief, of vindication, of justice finally served. Vanessa was arrested 2 days later and charged with financial exploitation of an elderly person, fraud, and theft. She tried to flee to her sister's house in Florida, but the police caught her at the airport. The criminal trial came 3 months after the civil one, and she was convicted on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in prison. Thomas divorced her while she awaited sentencing. He came to see me again, bringing flowers and a heartfelt letter of apology. "Mom, I know I can't undo what happened. I know I failed you in the worst possible way. But I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll let me." I looked at my son, really looked at him. He'd lost weight, had gray in his hair that wasn't there before. The experience had aged him, changed him. "Thomas, I love you. You're my son, and that will never change. But trust? That's going to take time, a long time." "I understand," he said quietly. "I'll wait as long as it takes." Over the following months, we slowly rebuilt our relationship. He came to visit every week, helped Margaret around the house, drove me to physical therapy appointments. He never pushed, never demanded forgiveness, just showed up consistently, reliably. And gradually, very gradually, I began to trust him again. The money was recovered, most of it anyway. The house sale was voided, and I got my home back. But standing in that empty house, seeing the bare walls where my furniture had been, the empty rooms that once held a lifetime of memories, I realized something. I didn't want it anymore. This house was tainted now, filled with betrayal and pain. So I sold it properly, this time for fair market value, $260,000. With that money, plus the recovered savings and the punitive damages, I bought a small condo in Nashville, near Margaret. It's perfect for me, 1 floor, no stairs, close to my sister. And Thomas helped me decorate it, hanging pictures, assembling furniture, making it feel like home. Now, almost 2 years later, I'm sitting in my little living room, looking out at the Tennessee hills, telling you this story. Was it worth it? The pain, the betrayal, the months of legal battles? Yes, because I learned something crucial. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I learned that justice matters, even when it hurts. And I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about loyalty, trust, and love. Thomas and I are slowly healing. We'll never have the relationship we once did. That's gone forever. But we're building something new, something honest, something based on reality instead of blind trust. And that, my dear friends, is enough. So there you have it, my story of betrayal and justice. I'm 70 years old now, living in my cozy condo, having coffee with Margaret every morning, going to physical therapy 3 times a week. I'm not the same woman I was before all this happened. I'm wiser, more cautious, definitely more cynical. But I'm also prouder, stronger, more confident in my ability to stand up for myself. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed by family, please know you're not alone. There are millions of us, elderly people who trusted the wrong people, who were taken advantage of, who had our lives stolen. But we can fight back. We can demand justice. And we can rebuild. Where are you watching from today? Please drop your location in the comments, and if this story resonated with you, if you've been through something similar, share your story too. We're stronger together, my friends. And remember, it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Never too late to demand what's rightfully yours. Never too late to say no more. Thank you for listening to this old lady's story. Subscribe to Grandma's Old Age Stories for more real tales from those of us who've lived long enough to know that life isn't always fair, but justice is always worth fighting for. Until next time, my dears, stay strong, stay vigilant, and never, ever let anyone make you feel powerless. Because you're not. You have power, you have rights, and you have worth no matter what your age. And one more thing before I go. If you found value in this story, if it helped you in any way, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's another grandmother fighting a similar battle. Maybe it's an elderly neighbor who seems isolated and vulnerable. Maybe it's even a younger person who works with elderly folks and needs to understand what we go through. Knowledge is power. And the more people who understand elder financial abuse, the fewer victims there will be. I want to leave you with something my mother told me when I was just a girl, barely 10 years old. She said, "Dorothy, people will show you who they really are. Your job isn't to make excuses for them or try to change them. Your job is to believe them the first time and protect yourself accordingly." I wish I'd remembered those words when Vanessa came into my life. I wish I'd seen the signs, the little red flags that were there from the beginning. But I can't change the past. None of yous can. All we can do is learn from it, grow from it, and use our experiences to help others avoid the same mistakes. That's why I'm sharing this story, painful as it is to relive. Because if even one person watching this thinks twice before signing over power of attorney, if even one person recognizes the warning signs of financial exploitation, if even one elderly person finds the courage to fight back against abuse, then my suffering wasn't for nothing. Now, before I close out this video, I want to address something I know some of you are thinking. Dorothy, how could you let this happen? Weren't there signs? Didn't you suspect anything? And yes, looking back, there were signs. Vanessa always volunteered to help with my finances, always offered to drive me to bank appointments. She'd make little comments about how overwhelming it must be for me to manage everything alone, how confusing modern banking was for someone my age. She isolated me slowly, subtly. Friends would call to invite me to lunch, and Vanessa would say, "Oh, Dorothy's not feeling well today," without ever telling me they'd called. My church ladies group planned outings, and somehow I never got the information. Vanessa was always there, always helping, always positioning herself between me and the rest of my life. But I didn't see it because I didn't want to see it. Because she was married to my son, and I wanted so desperately to believe we were a happy family. That's the insidious thing about this kind of abuse. It happens slowly. It's not one big theft. It's 1,000 small manipulations. It's eroding trust in yourself, making you doubt your own memory, your own judgment. It's being convinced that you need help, that you're becoming a burden, that you should be grateful someone is willing to deal with your affairs. And by the time you realize what's happening, they've already taken everything. So my advice to you, my dear friends watching this, is simple. First, be very, very careful about who you give power of attorney to. It should be someone with an impeccable track record, someone who's proven their trustworthiness over years, not months. And even then, set up safeguards. Require 2 signatures for large transactions. Set up alerts on your bank accounts. Tell your bank to call you directly if anyone tries to make major changes. Second, stay connected to your community. Don't let anyone isolate you, no matter how well-meaning they seem. Keep your friendships active. Stay involved in your church or social groups. Maintain relationships outside your immediate family. Isolation makes you vulnerable, but community makes you strong. Third, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone convince you that you're being paranoid or difficult or ungrateful. Your feelings are valid, your concerns are valid, and you have every right to question things that don't add up. Fourth, keep your own records. Don't rely on someone else to tell you what's in your accounts or what transactions have been made. Check your own statements, keep your own files, know exactly what you have and where it is. Knowledge is protection. And finally, if you do find yourself in a situation like mine, don't be afraid to fight back. Don't let shame or embarrassment or family pressure keep you silent. Elder abuse thrives in silence, in victims who are too humiliated to admit they've been taken advantage of. But there's no shame in being a victim. The shame belongs entirely to the abuser. Speak up, get help, call a lawyer, call the police, call Adult Protective Services. You are worth fighting for. I also want to say something to the younger people who might be watching this. Maybe you clicked on this video out of curiosity, or maybe YouTube's algorithm just dropped it in your feed. But if you're here, please hear this. Check on the elderly people in your life. Your grandparents, your parents, your elderly neighbors. Look for signs of financial exploitation, isolation, or abuse. Ask questions, pay attention, be present. And if you're in a position where you do have power of attorney or financial responsibility for an elderly person, please treat that responsibility with the respect and integrity it deserves. That's not your money, it's not your house, it's not your inheritance to claim early. That person trusted you, and that trust is sacred. Use it to protect them, not to exploit them. You know, as I sit here recording this, I'm looking at a photo on my wall. It's from my wedding day, Richard and me standing in front of a little church in Cleveland, both of us so young and hopeful. We had nothing back then, nothing but each other and big dreams. We built a life together, penny by penny, sacrifice by sacrifice. Richard died too young, but he left me with enough to be comfortable, to be secure. And for 40 years I protected what we built. I worked hard, saved carefully, made good decisions. All so that in my old age I could live with dignity, with independence, with peace. Vanessa tried to steal that from me, tried to take not just my money but my dignity, my independence, my sense of self-worth. But she failed. She's in prison now, and I'm here free, safe, telling my story. That's the real victory, not the money I recovered, though I'm grateful for it. The real victory is that I refused to be a victim. I refused to accept what was done to me. I fought back with every ounce of strength I had, and I won. And if this 70-year-old woman who could barely walk with a walker when she got out of the hospital can fight back and win, so can you. So wherever you are right now, whatever battle you're facing, whether it's with family members who see you as an ATM machine, or healthcare facilities that neglect you, or anyone else who treats you as less than human just because you've lived a long life, remember this. You have value. You have rights. You have power. And you are never ever too old to stand up and say no more. Before I sign off, I want to give a special thanks to a few people. To my sister Margaret, who took me in when I had nowhere to go, who stood by me through every court appearance, every difficult moment. Maggie, if you're watching this, I love you more than words can say. To my lawyer, Patricia Morrison, who fought like a warrior for justice. To Judge Sullivan, who saw through the lies and ruled with wisdom and compassion. And yes, even to my son Thomas, who made terrible mistakes but is genuinely trying to make amends. Forgiveness is a journey, and we're walking it together. And to all of you watching, thank you. Thank you for giving me a platform to share my story, for listening with open hearts, for supporting this channel. Every view, every like, every comment means the world to me. It tells me I'm not alone, that my experience matters, that maybe I can help someone else avoid what I went through. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Grandma's Old Age Stories. I'll be sharing more real experiences from my 70 years on this earth, stories about love and loss, triumph and tragedy, mistakes and victories. Because we elderly folks have lived through things that younger generations can't even imagine, and our stories deserve to be heard. Next week, I'll be telling you about the time I started my own small business at age 65 with nothing but $400 and a dream. It's a much happier story than this one, I promise. So make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. Until then, my precious friends, I'm Dorothy Henderson, signing off from my cozy little condo in Nashville, Tennessee. Remember, age is just a number, but dignity is forever. Stay strong, stay vigilant, And never let anyone make you feel like you don't matter. Because you do matter more than you know. God bless you all. And I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and one more time, drop your location in the comments. I love seeing where all of you are watching from. It makes this old lady's heart so happy to know my story is reaching people all over the world. Alright, I'm really signing off now. Take care, stay safe, and remember, you're never too old to fight for what's right.